The heavy crystal vase on the center of the mahogany dining table vibrated slightly as my stepmother, Patricia, slammed her palms flat against the polished wood surface. "You have until Thursday evening at 6 o'clock to pack up your things and clear out of the master suite, Carla," Patricia announced, her voice dripping with unearned authority. "Canton and Melanie are moving in on Friday morning. They are trying for their first child, and this house needs to belong to a real, proper family unit now." I sat across from her in the formal dining room, holding my porcelain teacup midway to my lips. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't express a single emotion. I simply placed the delicate cup back down on its matching saucer with a gentle, deliberate click. "This house has 5 full bedrooms, Patricia," I said, keeping my tone entirely calm and flat. "Canton and his wife already have a spacious 3-bedroom apartment in the city center. Why exactly do they need to take over the main wing of this estate?" Patricia leaned forward over the table, narrowing her eyes into sharp slits. "Because Canton is my son, and he deserves to raise his future children in a property of this size and prestige. You've been living here virtually rent-free ever since your father passed away 3 years ago. You are 31 years old, unmarried, and taking up valuable living space. It is high time for you to go rent your own small apartment downtown." I took a moment to look around the grand dining hall of the coastal estate located in Grandview Heights. Patricia had lived under this roof for 8 years, ever since she married my late father back in 2018. But what Patricia didn't know, and what her toxic entitlement had kept her from ever investigating, was the actual financial machinery holding this roof over her head. "My name is Carla Vogel. I am 31 years old, and I work as a senior director of global logistics for a major international supply chain corporation. When my father passed away unexpectedly 3 years ago, back in 2023, he left behind a massive, complicated financial mess. The estate was burdened with unpaid commercial property taxes, legacy debt, and a monthly mortgage balance of $7,500. Maintaining the physical grounds, the pool filtration infrastructure, the high-voltage perimeter security, and basic utility bills required another $4,500 every single month. Tricia had no background in finance, no corporate experience, and zero savings of her own. She simply assumed that my late father's life insurance policy was automatically covering the $12,000 required each month to keep the grand estate fully operational. In reality, my father's insurance payout had been entirely consumed by his astronomical medical debts prior to his passing. For 36 consecutive months, I had been quietly transferring $12,000 of my own hard-earned executive salary every single month directly into a designated estate escrow account. I didn't do it for Patricia. I did it to honor my father's legacy and to protect the family asset until I could resolve the complex probate titles. Over those 3 years, Patricia treated me like an inconvenient, unwanted boarder. She complained if I worked late, made passive-aggressive remarks about my lifestyle, and invited her 34-year-old son, Canton, over every weekend to treat the property like his private resort. Canton and his 32-year-old wife, Melanie, were chronically unemployed, drifting from one failed venture to another while living off Patricia's modest monthly allowance, an allowance that was actually funded by the remaining operational buffer I left in the household checking account. Now, on a cold, rainy Tuesday afternoon, Patricia was formally giving me a 48-hour eviction ultimatum. "Did you hear what I said, Carla?" Patricia demanded, crossing her arms defensively. "Thursday at 6 p.m. is the non-negotiable deadline. Canton's moving truck arrives early Friday morning at 8. I do not want your personal items cluttering up the bedrooms when they arrive." I looked directly into Patricia's eyes. I didn't argue. I didn't mention the $12,000 a month. I didn't remind her who paid for the luxury appliances, the custom furniture, or the high-tech security system protecting the perimeter. "Understood," I said smoothly. "I will be completely packed up and gone by Thursday evening." Patricia smirked, clearly surprised that I hadn't put up a fight or broken down in tears. "Good. I am glad to see you are finally being realistic about your place in this family." The moment Patricia walked upstairs to call Canton with the news, I opened my laptop at the dining table. I accessed my private online banking portal and pulled up the recurring automated wire transfers linked to the estate's escrow ledger. With 3 deliberate clicks of my mouse, I canceled the recurring $12,000 monthly transfer permanently. Next, I logged into my personal accounts with the regional electric utility, the municipal water authority, the private security monitoring company, and the fiber optic internet provider. Every single service was registered exclusively under my personal name and billed directly to my corporate credit card. I scheduled an immediate hard service disconnection for Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock sharp. Finally, I made a call to a commercial freight and moving company that I worked with through my logistics career. I booked 3 heavy-duty moving vans and a full crew of 8 professional movers to arrive at the estate on Thursday morning at precisely 9 a.m. On Wednesday morning, Patricia left the estate early to spend the night at an exclusive luxury spa resort with Melanie to celebrate their upcoming house transformation. She had no idea that while she was enjoying massage treatments and champagne, I was preparing to strip the estate down to its empty shell. Thursday morning arrived. Precisely 8:45 a.m., 3 massive commercial freight vans pulled up the long, winding driveway of the Grandview Heights property. The moving crew executed the job with total precision. Over the next 7 hours, every single item that I had personally purchased over the last 4 years was systematically cataloged, wrapped in protective foam, and loaded into the back of the vans. They packed up the 80-inch television screens, the custom-imported leather couches, the solid oak dining set, the premium washer and dryer units, the high-end kitchen appliances, and every piece of original artwork hanging in the corridors. I even instructed the technicians to uninstall the smart home central hubs, the digital climate sensors, and the $15,000 exterior camera array that I had installed 2 years prior. By 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, the estate was completely stripped. The grand rooms that once looked like a luxury architectural feature were transformed into empty boxes of bare floorboards and hollow walls. At 4:55 p.m., I walked out onto the front stone patio, holding only my personal leather luggage and my executive laptop bag. I turned around, pulled the heavy oak front door shut, and locked it securely behind me. 5 o'clock sharp, the utility providers executed the scheduled remote shutoffs. The exterior landscaping lights clicked off, the waterline pressure dropped to 0, and the central heating unit shut down completely, leaving the massive stone building freezing and dark in the damp evening air. I stepped into my SUV, drove directly to my newly leased high-rise penthouse condominium in the financial district, and put my cell phone on Do Not Disturb mode for the night. On Friday morning at 7:30 a.m., Patricia, Canton, and Melanie pulled up the long driveway in a procession, followed closely by Canton's rented moving truck filled with his cheap apartment furniture. What happened next was related to me later by the estate's former gate guard. Patricia unlocked the heavy front door, stepping inside with a broad smile, expecting to present a warm, fully furnished mansion to her son and daughter-in-law. Instead, she stepped into absolute darkness and a freezing, echoing void. The living room had no furniture. The dining room was completely empty. Kitchen was missing its sub-zero refrigerator, built-in microwave, and coffee stations. The master suite upstairs was stripped down to the raw floor baseboards. Panicked, Patricia ran from wall to wall, slapping light switches up and down, but nothing happened. She turned the kitchen faucet handles, but not a single drop of water came out of the pipes. "What on earth is going on here?" Canton shouted, his voice echoing loudly in the cold foyer. "Mom, where is all the furniture? Why is it freezing inside? Where are the TVs?" Trisha's face turned completely ghost white as she pulled out her phone and frantically dialed my number. My phone vibrated softly on my granite kitchen island downtown while I sat enjoying a warm cup of coffee. I answered the call and placed it on speakerphone. "Carla!" Patricia screamed into the microphone, her voice shrill with unhinged panic. "What did you do? The house has been ransacked. Everything is gone. The furniture, the appliances, the lights aren't working. Someone broke in and stripped the entire estate." "Nobody broke into the house, Patricia," I replied in a calm, smooth tone. "I simply packed up my personal belongings, exactly as you ordered me to do." "Your personal belongings?" Trisha shrieked hysterically. You took the refrigerator. You took the sofas. You took the dining table. You even ripped out the security system. I purchased every single one of those items with my own personal funds over the past 4 years, I stated clearly. You told me to vacate so your son could start a family. I simply took what belonged to me. You cannot just shut off the electricity and the running water. Patricia raged over the speaker. Canton and Melanie are standing here right now with a moving van. Call the utility company and turn everything back on immediately. Those accounts were registered under my name and paid via my credit card, I explained logically. Since I no longer reside at the property, I am under zero obligation to pay for its utility consumption. There was a heavy pause on the line, followed by the sound of Canton snatching the phone from his mother's hand. Listen to me, Carla, Canton growled aggressively into the phone. You cannot treat my mother like this. She is the owner of this estate. You need to transfer $50,000 into her checking account right now so we can refurnish this place and get the power turned back on. I let out a low, amused laugh. Canton, let me educate you and your mother on the actual financial reality of this property. I opened a spreadsheet file on my laptop containing the financial audits from the past 3 years. For 36 consecutive months, I have deposited $12,000 every single month into the estate escrow account, I said with absolute precision. $7,500 of that went directly to the mortgage lender to prevent foreclosure. $4,500 went to property taxes, insurance, utilities, and grounds maintenance. My father's life insurance policy ran out 3 years ago. Patricia has not contributed a single dollar to this property since 2023. The line went dead silent. I could hear Patricia hyperventilating in the background. What? Patricia stammered, grabbing the phone back from her son. $12,000 a month? That is impossible. Your father had a trust fund. The trust was entirely exhausted by medical bills, Patricia, I informed her. I kept this house afloat out of respect for my father's memory. But since you made it abundantly clear that I am not considered family, I permanently canceled my monthly $12,000 transfer as of 2 days ago. Carla, wait, Patricia whimpered, her arrogant tone completely evaporating into desperation. The bank? What about the bank mortgage? The mortgage payment is due today, Friday, by 5 p.m., I said cold-bloodedly. If $7,500 is not posted by 5 o'clock, the loan will enter formal default. And since the escrow account has zero balance right now, the bank will issue an automatic default notice to your email on Monday morning. We do not have $7,500. Tricia sobbed frantically. Canton doesn't have that money. I only have $1,100 in my checking account. Carla, please, you cannot let our family home go into foreclosure. It isn't my home anymore, Patricia, I said with finality. You gave me until Thursday to leave. I left. Now you, Canton, and Melanie can figure out how to cover $12,000 a month on your own. Carla, please. Come back. We can fix this, Patricia begged, weeping loudly over the speakerphone. You can keep the master suite. Canton can stay in his apartment. Just turn the heat back on. Have a wonderful weekend with your real family, Patricia, I said softly. I tapped the red end call button and immediately added Patricia, Canton, and Melanie to my permanent block list. The financial aftermath over the next 90 days completely dismantled my stepmother's life. By Monday morning at 9 a.m., the mortgage servicer officially flagged the estate account for non-payment. Lacking funds, Patricia couldn't even afford the emergency reconnection fees required by the power and water utilities. Realizing that Patricia possessed no actual wealth and that the mansion was an unheated shell, Canton and Melanie unpacked their rental truck and retreated back to their small apartment downtown. Within 30 days, the lending bank filed formal foreclosure papers against the Grandview Heights estate. Desperate to avoid total bankruptcy, Patricia was forced to put the unheated, stripped estate on the market as an urgent short sale. Because the property required massive capital to settle accumulated property tax liens and utility restorations, it sold at a devastating discount. Patricia walked away from the closing table with less than $18,000 after all debts were cleared, barely enough to pay 2 years of rent for a tiny one-bedroom flat on the outskirts of town. Canton and Melanie's marriage shattered under the financial pressure 6 months later when Melanie finally accepted that Cannon had zero financial prospects or inheritance coming his way. As for me, I redirected the $12,000 I saved every month into expanding my personal investment portfolio and purchasing a stunning oceanfront penthouse. I completely severed ties with ungrateful relatives and built a life filled with absolute peace, executive success, and financial independence. Before we wrap up, I want to share a crucial lesson from today's story. Generosity should never be mistaken for weakness, and taking someone's silent sacrifice for granted is the fastest way to lose it entirely. When people treat your contributions as an obligation while disrespecting your presence, stepping back isn't an act of revenge. It is simply allowing them to experience the true cost of your absence. Carla's story proves that when you stop carrying the financial and emotional weight for ungrateful people, their own entitlement will inevitably cause their downfall. Value those who support you, never bite the hand that feeds you, and always know your own worth.